Welcome back, everybody. Hope everyone is doing well. My name is Jason. I'll be your host on this CFL talk show, Hussey's Huddle. In this video, we preview and predict Week 16 of the 2022 CFL season. But really quickly before we get started, if you want to support the channel as always, be sure to hit like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And with that said, let's get started with today's video. So I'm back on my normal set for the first time in a while. It is good to be back, ladies and gentlemen. I was looking forward to recording this video all week. Got a whole bunch of stuff going on right now, but so happy to be talking CFL with you guys today. So let's start talking about this week's slate, starting with the first game, which is Hamilton traveling to Montreal with the Alouettes favored by 2.5 points here. And obviously the big story in this one is that Hamilton is coming off that gigantic win over Winnipeg that could potentially catapult the rest of their season here. They look dead in the water at 3-9, but that surprising victory last weekend effectively could have saved their season. And if they win this game, they're almost in the driver's seat for the second place in the East Division. It wouldn't officially put them over the Alouettes because the Alouettes would have played one less game, but at the same time, Hamilton would take the season series if they would win this game in Montreal. So it's an absolutely crucial game, just like the previous game that Montreal and Hamilton played a few weeks back. A lot of eyes will be on quarterback Dane Evans in this one after he had a career day versus that great Winnipeg defense last week. He's had a rough season so far, but maybe that game last week will catapult him like the rest of the team the rest of the season. I'm very interested to see how he plays in this game. A couple of things, though, working against the Ticats in this one that I think are a little bit troubling. One, they haven't won consecutive games all year. They've had opportunities to string wins together, but they have never won consecutive games this season. Part of the reason why they started 3-9. And they also have not won a road game this season. They're 0-6. So let's see if that trend or either of those trends break in this one. And then Montreal is coming off a bye week, so that should be interesting to see how they're prepared, if they're prepared to play this Hamilton team that is coming off a very confident victory last week against Winnipeg. So very interested to see what happens in this one. I think that the Montreal offensive line is going to play a very key factor in this one. Dylan Wynn, defensive tackle for the Hamilton Ticats, not going to play. I think he's their best defensive lineman up front, and he really dominated the first matchup, the one that Hamilton was able to win in this matchup this season. And he's not going to be out there for this one. I think Montreal's offensive line has looked shaky at times this year. Can Hamilton, without Wynn, put pressure on Trevor Harris? I think that's going to be really crucial for Hamilton to come out with a victory, in addition to how Dane Evans plays. Ultimately, I am going to go with the Alouettes just because of those two factors that I was talking about with the 0-6 road record and the lack of consecutive wins this season, but it really could go either way. I could really see Hamilton taking the momentum and riding this out the rest of the season and ultimately maybe winning the East, honestly. So should be very interesting to see what happens in this game, but I'm going to take the Alouettes to win this game 27-23 at home, off a bye week, and they should be well prepared. Next, moving on to our second game of the week, which is the Toronto Argonauts visiting the Ottawa Redblacks, where the Toronto Argonauts are favored by 2.5 points here. And both teams are coming off a bye week. They played each other 2 weeks ago in Ottawa, so this is the exact same matchup, same location as well. And it should be interesting to see if there's a different result this time. Toronto narrowly escaped with a small victory last time. I think it was 24-19. Let's see if Ottawa, that really needs a win here, can come out with a desperate attitude, kind of like Hamilton did last week, and get a victory here. I mean, it's really do or die for the Redblacks. If they do not win this game, I really don't see a path forward for them, even though it's mathematically possible for them to make the playoffs. I think they need to keep on stride and keep on track with Hamilton and Montreal for that second and third place race here. So should be very interesting to see what happens. On the Toronto side, I think sub-storyline here is that Winton McManus, linebacker for them, is having a Defensive Player of the Year, or Most Outstanding Defensive Player of the Year worthy season. I think he's just been all over the place, and the best player on this team probably is going to be the MOP candidate, I think, if I was to guess for this team at the end of the season. And I'm very interested to see how he plays once again in this one. And then on the other hand, with Ottawa, you have their Most Outstanding Candidate nominee, or the likely nominee for them, in Jalen Acklin, who's having an outstanding season as well, leading the league in receiving yards the last time I checked. So Very outstanding seasons from both of those guys. Can they carry their respective teams to victory in this one? Ultimately, I'm going to go with the Red Blacks to win this game. I just think weird things usually happen in the CFL, usually to keep it a little bit more competitive. It's been a wacky season out east this year. So I'm going to take them to win 21-18. Don't really know why. I think Ottawa was right in it, had an opportunity to win late in that game 2 weeks ago. They're two relatively evenly matched team. Ottawa beat them the first match of this season before losing a couple of weeks ago. So should be interesting to see what happens in this one. But ultimately, I think the desperation factor plays out for the Red Blacks and they get the win here. Now, one last thing before we move on to the third and final game of the week. I just wanted to say that, like Hamilton, the opposite of Hamilton, I should say, where Hamilton has not won a game on the road this year, Ottawa has not won a game at home this year, so it should be very interesting to see if they break the curse here, and I'm predicting that they'll do it. Now moving on to the finale of Week 16 in the CFL between the Calgary Stampeders and the BC Lions, with the BC Lions favored by 1 point here. And for the Lions to start off here, Vernon Adams making his second consecutive start for this team. He was able to lead the team to victory last week in Calgary. Let's see if he can do it here at home. And a win for BC all but locks up a home playoff game this season for them, because they have the season series already with Calgary, already having won 2 of the 3 total matchups. So should be interesting to see if they can win this game, that they'll probably, in all likelihood, be the second seed in the West Division, or maybe they can catch Winnipeg for first. I mean, anything is possible, right? After we saw what happened with Hamilton and Winnipeg last week. So I'm looking at that for BC. Can they come out strong and win and beat Calgary a third time here? And then for the Calgary perspective, can they finally beat Winnipeg or Winnipeg or BC here? Because they're 8-0 versus everybody else in the league, but they're 0-5 versus Calgary and Winnipeg. So I think something's got to give. They have to find a way to win one of these games, because I don't really have any confidence in them to win any of these games right now, because BC and Winnipeg have just been more mentally tough teams so far this season, and especially late in games. So it should be very interesting to see if Calgary can finally get it done this time in BC. So should be very interesting to see. Very close game, an entertaining game last week. Obviously went to overtime, missed 2-point conversion at the end by Calgary, ultimately won it for BC. So should be interesting to see what happens in this game. I'm going to go with BC to win this game 30-25. I just think that, Calgary has been cursed in these matchups against Winnipeg and BC so far this season, and I think that continues here, and ultimately they go winless against BC and Winnipeg this season. But with that said, those are just my predictions for Week 16 of the 2022 CFL season. I'm rolling with Montreal, Ottawa, and BC this week, but I think 3 of these matchups, all 3 of them, really could go either way. And I would love to hear your predictions down in the comments section. And with that said, hope everyone enjoys the games this weekend, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.